What if I told you that during the design process of a visual identity, the design stage is not the most important part of it? You would think I'm crazy, right? Let me explain why I say this. I have been a designer for the last 10 years and I have worked in many different environments, from agency to in-house to freelance. And something I noticed in all of the different experience is that even though I'm a designer and the design part should be the most important thing in theory, in reality it's not. How do you design something to be powerful, successful, memorable, which is exactly what a visual identity should be, without asking the right questions? In this video we are going to talk about all of these really important questions and the first steps that you need to take as a designer. If you are a business owner, this video is also for you, because you will understand the importance of these questions and why we really need them to be answered. I guarantee that these questions will eliminate the back and forth, the friction, misunderstandings, and you will get much more easily approvals on your projects. And as a client, as the founder, you will have peace of mind. Many designers, me included in my early years, as soon as they receive a brief, they go straight into designing. And in some projects, this could work. But when you work, especially in a freelance basis, and you work directly with the client, most of the times you don't really have all of the information that you would need to start designing. And the goal in every project is to reduce the friction, to have a successful outcome, and to reduce also the revisions and the cost of the project. If you are already a freelancer, you would know that revisions cost money. If you are a business owner, again, you would probably know by now that revisions cost money, but they also cost time for both parties. And what I have found in the recent years, after having so much experience with so many different people, so many different clients, and so many different teams, that from the start, we need to ask some specific and targeted questions so that we can start the research in the right way, we can collect the right information, and then the design is much smoother, the delivery is much smoother, and then both the client and the designer are really happy with their communication as well as the results. In the recent years, as a full-time freelancer, I have found this process really useful and really smooth most of the times. So let's see what these questions are. The first question is the origin. You have to ask about how they started, what they value, what's important for them for this business, their why. If you have seen any of my previous videos, you probably have seen the word map. The word map is something really useful in my design process, and I think in many other designers. It's where you write words that are associated with the business. You can find words that you can use for symbols or the choice of the color palette or even the fonts. The second question I already mentioned during the first question. It's part of it, but it is very specific. You should ask your client to provide 3 to 5 words that they would like their target audience to associate with their product, business, or services. And then you build from that. Question number 3 is all about their audience. You need to understand who this client is targeting. You will need an age group, you will need their maybe demographics, you will need their interests, and why this customer would buy their product or services. Now, just a note here, mostly for the founders out there. Dear founder, if you are watching this video, then you are valuing your brand and you are trying to understand more about it, as well as the design process. So when someone is asking you for your target audience, the answer cannot be everyone, at least at the start of your business. Choosing a target audience doesn't necessarily limit you. In reality, it shows to the target audience that you are focusing. You are focusing your products, you are focusing your research, focusing your money in this specific goal, in this specific products, in this specific target audience. This gives you the leverage of the expert. If you start by creating products for everyone, every age group, every demographic, you don't seem trustworthy. So next time someone is asking you about your target audience, have a think and see which audience is the one that would be attracted to your product, or you can build a product based on a specific target audience. Now back to the questions. Next question is all about the competitors. While we do our research, we need to understand who is against you on the shelf, on a different website, on social media, who you are competing with. Next question that I always ask all of my clients is what their future goals are for their business. Are they offering only services? Do they ever plan to launch physical products? When we are designing and when we are creating a visual identity, we need to make sure everything we design would grow with the business. Designing a visual identity for a social media agency compared to a fitness product is completely different. You would probably have more variations of your logo. You might have completely different color palettes based on the fact that you would probably have your products on a shelf or on a window display. And the part B question is also to ask if they are planning in the future or immediately, if they are also planning to sell in retailers or just on e-commerce. Again, the design decisions are very different when your product is being sold online through the screen and you have the unboxing experience at home, or if your customers are buying the product next to your competitors. Then we have kind of the style and personal questions. If there is a specific color that they really hate, and if you come back with this color in their brand color palette, that color palette would immediately be dismissed. Or if they have a preference in a specific font or something they saw, it is really useful to ask for a visual mood board that would include colors, social media visuals, typography, logos, anything that you can think of in terms of visuals. Of course, when we are designing, we also need to take into consideration color psychology. So if our client is really hating the color purple, but we are still designing a brand that is all about trust and luxury, maybe we can find a shade of purple that is a bit more blue or a bit more pink. And in that sense, we can still follow color psychology for our target audience and what we do, but the client is not unhappy with their brand identity. Another important question to ask your clients is about their mission and their values. This will make them think deeper. In some cases, clients don't really know, don't really have direction, and they are just thinking of the product and the service. However, when we have in place our mission and our values, that helps a lot to narrow down how we speak to our target audience and what we are creating for them. Also, a really useful question I have found when I'm working on a visual identity, I always ask, and it's a multiple choice question that they can choose all that apply, as many as they want. But basically, I have a question where I'm asking my clients, what are your preferences? And the choices they have underneath is a symbol, monogram, all caps, sentence case, or lowercase. Helps the client to think of their brand, think of it visually, and kind of envision it. And with this kind of question, they also think of brands straight away. So they think of brands that they use all lowercase and they associate with them or no. Of course, there is a question about, do you have any brands that you admire? If they have some favorite brands that they would really love to have a very similar aesthetic, the brands don't even need to be in the same niche. It could just be the style. We are looking mostly for the visual of the brand rather than what they are offering. Last but not least, last question I have in my branding questionnaire is, when are you planning to launch your brand? For me to follow up around that date, to see if they have launched, if they have any feedback, if they have launched successfully, if they need any support launching. I find it really helpful. These are the important questions I ask. This is the list of the questions I'm always asking my clients before I start any design. I am really curious to know if you have any more questions that you would suggest to be asked before any design starts. Please leave them down below in the comments. And of course, if you want to work together, all my details are down below in the description box. If you learned something from this video, don't forget to subscribe.